Welcome to the Love and Guts podcast, Rebecca. I'm so excited to have you on and to discuss this conversation with you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here with you. Thanks for the invitation.
You're very welcome. And as always, I do like to start with reading someone's bio, just in case people may not be familiar with who you are. So if you're okay with that, I'm just going to run through your bio. And guys, if I'm looking up there, not kind of looking off in yonder, that's where all my notes are. So awesome. Let's get cracking. Rebecca Levy is a somatic sexologist, sex educator, and relationship counsellor based in Newcastle, Australia, with a Bachelor in Health Science, Diploma of Counselling, and certifications in somatic sex education, somatic sexological bodywork, and Gottman method relationship therapy. Rebecca brings an impressive depth of training to her work, including over 25 years of Tantra study. She currently serves as president of the Somatic Sex Educators Association of Australasia and is completing a graduate diploma in somatic sexology. Rebecca works with individuals and couples to help them move beyond shame, disconnection, and pain toward a more embodied, satisfying, and intimate life. As self-described neuroplasticity geek, she draws on the emerging science supporting somatic therapy to help clients reconnect with their bodies, cultivate pleasure, and build deeply nourishing relationships. Did I get all that right?
Yes,
Right.
there's so many mouthfuls in there, right?
So many Esters. What's that about?
Twisters, I know.
We got there. So what I want to start with is what drew you to the work of somatic sexology, sex education, and relationship counselling? So intrigued.
Yeah, I think it's always been something that's been a passion in the background, and counseling and also sex and exploring relationships. And then it just came a point where I needed to I guess I needed to ground it all in some training so that I felt confident in actually starting to see clients. Forever would I be the person that people would come to and talk to about sex and relationships. And I was always, giving them ideas and tips and things like how to go about it. And then I'd hear back like that worked. I really hadn't thought of it this way, or I tried that thing that you said to me. And so, yeah, I just thought it was time to get some formal training. Such as my counselling, diploma, so that I could start working in that way. Also, I come from a family, like my parents were teenagers when they fell pregnant with my brother. They had me, I was wanted, they stayed together. I come from a family where sex was never shamed. I never got the message of like, don't do it. I just got the message of do it with someone you love and don't get pregnant. And so I did. And that allowed me, by the time I was 22, I'd had sex with 2 partners, but it allowed me the safety to explore in so many ways. And it was only after I came out of that that I started realizing that sex wasn't like that with everybody. And so, yeah, and then I had things happening within my body when I was having sex, which is what led me down to study Tantra. Yeah. So, but when I went into the tantric world, I realized there was a lot at the time. It's changed a lot. Consent has come in a lot more, and but I felt like there was a lot of shadowy work going on. A lot of people like under the guise of like being open relating, and to me, there wasn't a sense of emotional safety in what was happening. And then as I continued my studies and I discovered polyvagal theory, I could see how Tantra was actually connecting in with this like co-regulation, this beautiful experience that humans have when they come together.
Amazing. I do wonder how things would be different for me if I did feel safe having those discussions with my parents, because I grew up in a family that was, my mother especially was she's religious, still is, but it was good girls don't do that. There was all this instilling of not fear's not the right word, but like shame and guilt, all that sort of stuff that you wouldn't do before marriage and stuff. Not that that's what I followed, but for me personally, you end up rebelling, but having this, not you, me personally, I ended up rebelling and then having this shame and guilt around it. And so I do wonder how that would be different if there was a bit of an open door policy to talk about those things, Mum,
Mm.
I'm thinking about doing this, or you know what I mean? Like I just feel
Yeah.
so foreign to me even saying that out loud, but I do wonder even how I'm going to approach my children.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I didn't have those conversations,
Yeah.
but I had a boyfriend, that I was with. My first, boyfriend was 1 year. We were together for a year. He's still around somewhere as a friend, and then the other one was like 7 years. So I was really safe with the guys that I was, having sex with. Yeah.
But at least it wasn't shamed, right? It wasn't
Yeah,
something that
definitely.
was
Yeah.
in
Neither
the
their
family.
parents nor mine shamed it. Yeah. It was more like, let's just get you on the pill.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about it,
Let's
but
protect
let's
you.
get you on the pill.
Yeah.
Make sure you're safe. Yeah.
And so people are probably wondering, why have I got a sexologist and sex educator on the cast? And the reason why I thought you would be a really good fit for Love and Guts is because of that whole topic around shame, body awareness, and digestive discomfort, and how that kind of links together. So for listeners who are new to the term, though, before we get into any of that, what is a somatic sexologist, and how does somatic sexology differ from more traditional approaches to sexual health or relationship counseling?
Right. Good question. So traditional, approaches to sexual health, more clinical. So you will have, they're called clinical sexologists, and they have, or psychosexual therapists, and they've studied, masters at uni in sexual health and reproductive health, and they've really gone down that clinical road of lots of studies and like learning, I guess, more around like the STDs, which, I have that knowledge, but in terms of the somatic side, and so with the clinical sexologist, they will diagnose someone, they will have a treatment plan, they will have, an idea of what's happening for this person, and then it'll take this many sessions. Well, whereas with the somatic sexologist, we're working with the body and we're being body led. So rather than me diagnosing someone, which we don't do, I actually support clients in feeling into, like, understanding what's happening for them, but being more body based. So because soma is the body, sexology is purely the study of sex, and so when we meet the body where it is, instead of continually overriding it, it actually brings a sense of safety to the body, and the body can start to trust and come online. And then from there, we start to have embodied experiences around, what does safety feel like in my body? What does embodied consent feel like? What does pleasure feel like? And so for me, with that work, I will do it in a non-sexual way to support people to move it then into a sexual environment. Yeah.
And so from your experience, how does chronic shame or body embarrassment actually show up physiologically to start with? And can it contribute to or worsen digestive symptoms from your experience?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, it can worsen, because when we think about where shame lives and what happens when someone's feeling shame and the physiological response that the body will go through, it tends to live in, the autonomic nervous system is having this experience of, I'm not safe. I might go into a frozen state. I might like either withdraw and just be on that heightened alert and be frozen, or I could just be numb and start to disassociate. So it's and that then impacts the digestive system as well, as all dysregulated states do. Yeah.
And do you see people that come in with, hey, I feel not the best version of myself? I'm bloated, I've got constipation, or, IBS, where, I just don't feel like I'm certain with knowing what my bowels are going to do, for example. How does that health aspect, have you seen that come in clinic, and how does that health aspect contribute to body shame or sex? How do you move through that with someone? Have you had
Yeah.
to?
I haven't had to deal with, I've got digestive issues, be it, IBS, constipation, indigestion, and it's affecting the way
The
I
way they're
am. Like,
showing
it
up.
stops me from being sexual. What what does happen is that they might have a judgment on their body and the size and the shape and and feel uncomfortable in their body, which is what leads to them not wanting to be sexual. Yeah.
Yeah. So when someone is so disconnected from their body that they can barely tolerate looking at themselves in the mirror, let alone being intimate with a partner, where do you even begin with the somatic work?
A lot of compassion.
Yeah.
A lot of compassion, and we just start where they are. So whether it's embodied counseling, where we kind of notice, what does shame feel like in your body? You know, does it have a sensation? Where does it live? What do you notice? And then, I might do some embodied counseling to kind of move through exploring what the body's like. We want to get the mind out of the way so that we can actually hear the wisdom of the body. Another place I could go would be exploring pleasure and starting to because pleasure doesn't care what we look like. Pleasure and
Nice. Thank
orgasms
you, pleasure.
have no care about what we look like.
Yeah.
It is available to every human. Yeah, it's always available. And so if we think about like the polyvagal theory, where we look at the autonomic nervous system being in this shutdown state, but really where pleasure lives is it can live a little bit in there because they're a bit like primary colors, but we want to move them into a social engagement state so that they're more open to actually having an interaction. I would also take sex off the table and start looking at how can we broaden what sex even looks like or means to you and your partner. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned, and just because you keep referring to polyvagal theory, and people may not be familiar with like Stephen Porges and the polyvagal theory. Did you want to talk a little bit to that at all, or just like a brief little
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this theory so prior to Stephen Porges, putting his work out there, we had the understanding that something would happen to a person, their nervous system would get changed and they would be stuck in that state. What polyvagal theory shows is that the nervous system and the brain is also made out of, they're neuroplastic, so they can be readapted. And in understanding the three primary states of the autonomic nervous system and ways to, I guess, navigate through them, it helps to retrain the body. Once again, the body doesn't care. It's not that it doesn't care, but it doesn't know the difference between I'm in a heightened state and this is a really familiar state versus I'm in this really yummy, blissed out state and that's my usual state. It's just trying to automate things and keep things really like straightforward and simple, like save as much energy as possible. And also keep the person alive. And so the autonomic nervous system is there to keep us safe. And it's evolved over, millions of years with us. At the moment, there is a little bit of contention going on around whether or not it's real, polyvagal theory. However, having worked with that and the offshoots of the work, of the trauma support work that's come through many different teachers, there is definitely truth to it. And I can vouch for that in my own practice, but also in my own life too. And I'm super curious to see what it is that they're saying isn't true. Yeah.
And you do mention, there's a couple of things that you mentioned in that. You try to get the mind out of the way. What are some examples of what you would suggest for someone? I'm sure it's very case by case where you're meeting people at. Well, what could be an example of how you get someone out of the way, their mind out of their way?
Right. Yeah. So embodied practices might include breath work. It might include touch. It might include bringing awareness to the senses. We want to understand how to map where they're at. Usually if we're in a heightened state, our mind starts to race. And so there are ways to actually bring that out. Another thing I might do is titrate someone between two particular states. So they have this embodied experience of what it's like to feel that shame, and then what it's like to move in and what that feels like in their body, and then move them into a state where they're actually feeling, juicy and pleasurable and you know, sexy or whatever it is that they want to feel in their body. And just moving them between the two states actually helps them start to identify what happens in their body when they're in one state and how to shift out of it.
God, what a powerful tool if people were able to do that easily, you know, because I
like to give people toolkits. I like them to come up with their own toolkit. Once they start to notice, this is what happens to me when I'm in this state, when I'm carrying shame. It's like, well, what do you need? Like, what can go into that toolkit to support you to move out of that space, you know, in terms of self-regulation or co-regulation?
And I do
Because
love
we're not designed to be sexual and in pleasure when we're in shutdown or fight flight mode.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I love what you said though previously about, and now I'm going to botch it up. Pleasure is not
conditional. It doesn't. It
doesn't give a shit, really.
Like.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Like,
but
I am a curvy woman, right? And I've had people say it's amazing how comfortable and how much you enjoy your body, you know, given you don't look like mainstream people. But I give a fuck.
It is mainstream people. But also I think what's really sexy,
what society says is beautiful. Like, fuck that.
But what's really sexy, I think, is a woman that owns their body, you know, that carries their body a certain way. I think that supersedes any sort of, oh my God, where are my words today? Any sort of body type, look, aesthetic, anything like that. So what an ignorant thing to say.
Yes. Well, she's not a friend anymore. Feel free to delete that pic.
No, we'll leave that one in, because I'm sure that others would probably if you're okay with it, others would probably leave that a land for people.
Yeah. If I think about other cultures, you know, where pleasure is just like something they live, you know, and it's not just conditional to sex or genitals. It's like, what are you eating? You know, what are you doing with your body? Like, what are you listening to? Who are you hanging out with? What are you know, like, what are the things that just make you go, oh, like I have a bedgasm every time I get into bed with clean sheets. I'm like, oh, this is the best.
Yeah.
Right?
A clean house is like that for me. I'm like, oh my God.
We'd call that a chalkgasm.
A chalkgasm. Oh, okay. Maybe I should reach for something a bit more inspiring. But that's the season I'm in. That's the season I'm in with kids, when it's like, when it is just a mess, it's like, oh, head free. So when it's nice and clean, which is very rare, or if someone's coming over, I'm frantically trying to clean it. It's like, oh, that feels so good.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, totally. So breath and mindfulness, you've mentioned a lot, which is great. But what does embodiment practice actually look like for someone who spent years avoiding body awareness because their body has caused them pain or embarrassment?
It might be a very slow journey inwards.
And what does that look like, though? Like, what like on a very minimal?
Yeah, it would be noticing what sensations are, you know, and so a bit of a body scan. And I have, like, when I'm working with people, I actually give them, if they are really struggling for sensations, you know, I will give them like a list of all the different types of sensations. And they go through their body and they're like, oh, like right now I can feel there's a buzzing in my thighs. I can feel like there's some heat in my chest. So these are sensations that I can tune into. And I'm sure what are you feeling in your body right now?
Actually, I was thinking about that as you said it. I feel a little bit of like warmth underneath my breastbone there. And just, I mean, I am menstruating at the moment, bit of too much information. So I kind of feel I'm sitting on a fit ball and the legs are open wide and I'm just kind of like, everything's just dropping. But I don't mind that feeling. It just feels like, oh, just let it all out kind of thing. Although it just feels really warm. Yep.
Yeah, beautiful.
Sorry about that, guys, but just keeping it real.
It's a cycle, right?
It totally is. It's a cycle. But felt very differently, I think, when you're in that perimenopausal phase where it may not be a regular menstruation, and you kind of go, well, what's going on now? And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen this month, or, what's it going to feel like.
And
So,
even like enjoying it, not knowing how much longer it's going to last for.
totally. I mean, I spent many years not having a period when I was younger.
Mm.
So I appreciate it when it's here. I've
Yeah.
always, I think from that experience, I'm just so grateful for a period, because I kind of know the benefits and how it sort of sets you up for that postmenopausal phase, and bone health and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just once it's taken away, you do appreciate the feeling when it's here, because you're like, I feel like a woman. Not that I wasn't a woman without it, but it just kind of felt like, for me, like, oh, I just feel like it's your report card, as we've spoken about, in previous podcasts. But enough about me. You work with people on intimacy and sexual confidence. How commonly does gut-related body shame show up? And we spoke about this a little bit before, and it as an underlying block in that work. How does it tend to manifest in relationships? And I'm thinking personally, not for me, but for others, that kind of, they might be feeling extremely bloated and they don't like the way that their body looks.
Yeah.
And they're really fixated on how this part of their body looks, and they don't.
Yeah.
So if they're feeling that way when they're looking at themselves in the mirror, how does that sort of show up for them in a relationship, maybe a long-standing relationship that they have, or they're entering into a new relationship and they're like, oh.
Yeah. They're probably going to withdraw from being sexual.
Yeah.
And so depending on how long that distance has been, if it's in an existing relationship, depending on how long that's been occurring, I'm going to want to bring some form of like physical touch that's non-sexual back in, so that their bodies can start to remember, oh, I remember you. Oh, I remember like cuddling feels really good. I remember like when you touch me, it feels really nice. And just kind of I want to stay in the things that feel good, as opposed to overriding and be like, well, yeah, you have to have penetrative sex. The other thing to think about is like the time of day that they have sex. Are they less bloated in the morning? Are they more comfortable in their bodies? What are the things that make them feel good in their bodies? So is it exercise? Is it dancing? Is it having a massage? Is it having a bath? Like, what are the things that actually bring embodiment bring them into their body? What are the things that help them with their embodiment?
And do you see, not gut related, but do you see the changes to sexual desire? I don't want to say sex history, but like sexual desire for someone that's entering into, say, menopause or post-menopause. What does that look like for someone?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the type of sex they've been having for so long, why they've been having sex that way. And I mean, there's also like their hormonal profile, but also stress as well. So I find, when you get to perimenopause, you just can't get away with what you used to in terms of your body. So it's what really makes a difference is self-care. When, when we look at cortisol, for example, oxytocin, which is the bonding chemical, the bonding hormone, can't coexist with cortisol. So if I'm in a constant state of stress, and usually people going through perimenopause might have children that they're parenting and parents who are starting to age, and their career might be at a point where they're like rocking it. And then they've got this relationship that they've been in for like 2 decades. So there's a lot of different components around managing stress and making sure that they self-care. I think it's important to go and get blood tests and go and get support, whether it's naturopathy or it's, bioidentical, HRT if it feels right, but everyone's different. I think we live in a time where we do have options and we have a lot more awareness. And I love that Gen X are going, no way am I just tolerating this stuff, that these changes that my body are going through that all the women before have gone through. So there's it's really important. Self-care is really important. Also, if I don't make space for myself to do the things that make me feel yummy in my body, why would I want to share it with anyone? Why would I feel yummy with somebody else?
That's
So
so true.
I feel like the main sexual relationship we have is with ourselves.
Mm.
Once I get clear on, what makes me feel good, then I can articulate it better.
So when we're talking about sex toys, I'm assuming like, I mean, could be sex toys, could be self-pleasure in other ways, do you have any favorites?
Ooh. Honestly, I have it's funny, I was talking to my partner about this morning. I just love spending, like probably 10 minutes in the morning with my body where I literally just feel my hands on my body. So I haven't shared this with the world, but obviously today is the day. But I do think it's really important to actually like connect with myself.
Yeah.
And in doing that, it feels beautiful to touch myself. And it doesn't have to involve my vulva. There's no there might not be any masturbation or penetration or any sex toy that comes out, but it's just this pure pleasure of enjoying this beautiful body that I live in.
Yeah.
Rather than just quickly getting up and going about my day and getting into life and then just leaving my body, to be the thing that drives me around every day, but not actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it for me. And then in terms of sex toys, I've never really been a big sex toy person.
Great. Please tell us
Um,
why.
well, you know, if I come back to like, how did I get to this work? I've been masturbating since I was a kid. I've had that neural pathway for orgasm, which is pretty much what sex and masturbation are, is they're neural pathways that get set up. It's like I've got this way of getting to this experience. I had no
Mm.
idea what I was doing as a kid, but I just knew that when I did this thing, it would build up, build up, build up, and then it would feel really good. And then I'd get to this peak experience, and then I was like, oh, okay, I feel great now.
Yeah.
No idea what was going on until I started, until really probably the last decade. I was like, wow, I've actually been, like masturbation. So for me, also with Tantra, I'm a super sensitive person. So for me, I find toys can be a bit overstimulating. And I think that there's like I have toys. I'm probably more inclined to go like the serpent wand or like a G spot
Yeah.
stimulator, which takes, multiple hands. So
Yeah.
yeah. But in terms of like, I feel sex needs to be like a smorgasbord. So
Yeah,
whether it's sex with
absolutely. A
myself
spectrum
or
of
it's with somebody else,
absolutely.
and I think there's space for toys. So it
Yeah.
could be an anal butt plug. It could be an anal vibrator. It could be, like there's a new lemon out, which I've had a couple of my friends go, oh my God, it's really strong.
Yeah.
So I think there's no harm in trying them to
Mm.
see what feels good. If it feels good, enjoy it.
So
Yeah.
I hear
I
is
would also say, just on that note of sex toys, use the vibrator on other parts of the body, not just straight on the clitoris,
great. Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it because it's just most people may just go straight for the quick relief without exploration. It's like a massage. When I used to massage back in the day, you people often would just go for the back. I just want an hour on the back. And I'm like, well, what about the backs of the calves and the front of the calves and the hands and the head? You're missing out. Like you really are missing out because all of those other areas just feel gorgeous, and you just kind of want to get straight into the back because that's an area that you love. So I see what you're saying, a very similar thing, that we don't need to go straight in for the kill, like explore
No,
the body. So do you
yeah.
have and do you have so great that you're like not blanket, no, don't use them, whatever feels good to you sort of thing. Would you have like a caution around them too, like excessive use? And what does that look like?
Go blind.
Does it make you feel like, is there like a numbness, And
Yeah.
I'm not speaking from a place of someone that uses it because growing up, having a religious mum, it was always like, good girls don't masturbate. And so I kind of didn't come into it till later. There was
Mm.
shame around all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, no, it wasn't me using sex toys every day, but I do wonder what a sexologist or a sex educator would think around like a real habitual use of it or an excessive
Yeah.
use. Like, what's
It
your...
depends. If they're using it as a way just to get to the goal, then they've just missed the journey,
Yeah.
right? And there's a disconnection from the body. There's still like, I'm just going to do this thing to get me to that, to get that thing. And over time, yeah, the body does become a little bit like, it's a familiar path. It gets a bit boring. It becomes a like a habit. And then I don't know, we all lack a little bit of naughtiness. So if we're only like just doing the same thing, eventually the body goes like, oh, I don't really want to do this
Bored.
anymore.
Yeah.
This is like, it's no fun. Or the orgasm intensity reduces, or the ability to actually get to the orgasm gets harder, which means they might need to increase the intensity. And I do feel like there is, even though I don't think the science is done on it, but I feel like there is a numbing out that happens.
Yeah.
Also, when I've got clients who use toys, but they won't actually touch their vulvas, it's like
Yeah. Okay.
there's a disconnection there. So we
Yeah. Yeah.
need to explore the relationship that they have with their genitals,
Mm.
and how can they actually enjoy and reclaim this part, or embrace this part of their body. And yeah, the other thing that just came to mind around shame is like when we think about anal play, and anal play can, because there's so much shame associated with the anus, but
Mm.
also the anus brings so much pleasure. So starting to develop a relationship even with the anus and anal play in a way that feels, like clean and comfortable, and going at a particular pace also helps to break down shame around my body as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. It really is.
And the anal
It's
sphincter.
big work that you do, I feel, because it's not just sex itself. Like, there's so much wrapped up emotionally for people, their bodies and past histories with, abuse or whatever it might be, physical, verbal, whatever it might be. I just think this, to hold that space, it's not for the faint-hearted. I know that you've absolutely got that capacity because you've just got that beautiful nature to be able to do that for someone, and they would feel very safe in your presence. But that's, I think what a responsibility, just working. Hence why you've got the credentials, but just would feel like a lot of things will be coming up for lots of people that come and see you. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to go back to the anal stuff.
Yeah, go, please go back to
The
the
other part was
anus.
like, if you think like about gut health, because what the anal sphincter does is it actually, when you release one sphincter, it helps the other sphincters in the digestive system to relax and soften as well, which
Well,
actually helps with constipation.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I send lots of people to pelvic floor physiotherapists for these sorts of reasons, that often there could be a structural imbalance there, and there could be like a tightening when you're not supposed to tighten, and a weakening of an area that shouldn't be weakened in that area. So it's sort of retraining this area to be doing what it should be doing, So yeah, that's very relevant. Thank you for going back to the good old anus. I think it's important, especially given my audience. For someone listening who recognizes themselves in this conversation, what's one small somatic practice they could start today to begin rebuilding a more compassionate relationship with their body?
So many.
I'd imagine it would be.
Can I do
List
two?
5. Look, 5, do however many you want.
Can I do two? Like, I
Yeah.
think the first one will be breath. And, it's like slowing down and actually taking a few minutes to close your eyes and just notice your breath. We want to start to build like a body awareness, and noticing, because the body it's always listening, and B, it's always changing, moving, it's always doing stuff. So like, slowing down and just taking, a few minutes each day to just breathe and notice, what is the depth of my breath? What is the speed of my breath? what parts of my body are moving with my breath. And even noticing the difference between when you first start that practice to when you finish that practice. People may notice their heart rate, they may notice the tension in their throat, their mind might be racing, but if they just keep bringing their awareness back to my breath, my breath, my breath, eventually they start to cultivate this relationship of actually being able to slow down and be in their body.
Would you have a time frame on it? Would you say someone that's just wanting to start to reconnect a new suggested breath? Would there be, let's sit in it for 2 minutes, see if you can, that sort of thing? Is there a kind of
I would say
spot to start with?
3.
Yeah,
I would also say, like, for someone, if it's really hard to do that, I would say 2 minutes, and then just keep expanding it for a minute every few weeks. Yeah. Sometimes what happens is we get to that place and say, oh, it's so nice here.
Yeah, I'm just going to sit in here a little bit longer. Yeah.
So that's one part. The other part the other thing I would suggest is to start to build a relationship with your hands and notice the pleasure that you take in through your hands. So, you mentioned that you were massaging earlier. And when we touch somebody, we actually we can absorb pleasure through our hands. My couches in my clinic are made out of blue velvet. So
nice.
there's a really deep pleasure in that sensation. So how can I start to take pleasure in through my fingers, through my hands, and start to build that connection within the brain? Also, when we do things like that, it actually helps bring us out of a stressed state and back into a bit more able to feel pleasure. And then that can translate into, when I touch another person, when I touch myself, can I absorb pleasure through my touch as well?
Oh, I love those 2 suggestions. And I know you have gone down the route of Tantra. I did a little bit of reading on it back in the day. I was a bit fascinated by it. And from memory, they spoke a lot about eye gazing, but like looking in the eyes during sex. Is that correct? Have I got that right? Yeah. So it's amazing how many people probably don't do that. Is that something?
I would say do the eye gazing before you get into sex.
Yes. Well, is that something? That's what I was going to say. As a couple, is that something? Because that is powerful in itself.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, like, co-regulating practice. If I go back to the polyvagal theory, it's one of the things, it's a social cue that we're looking for from the other person. Like, are they safe? Is there warmth in their eyes? And so when we start to look into the eyes of another person and we feel seen and get to see, there is just such a beautiful intimacy that comes with that. And then I think sex with eyes open, whether there's a lot of movement or just a little bit of movement or even just a stillness, it just creates this beautiful connection.
It's powerful. I did a nude yoga workshop many moons ago, and we did that eye gazing with someone else. I think it was another female, while we were nude with robes on. And the emotions that brought up, it was like most people just wanted to look away because it was too much for a lot of people to bear, like what was coming up for people, because it's very rare for a lot of people to look into someone's eyes and be that present, really hear and listen. And, it's just, it's powerful stuff. It sounds so simple, but, if someone was to do that to a friend or a partner, you would just kind of feel all sorts of things, sorts of emotions coming up.
Once again, start slowly, start with a minute, just sit down. If you've got a partner and you want to try it out, sit down for 5 minutes. But in that practice, if it starts to feel awkward and uncomfortable, close your eyes and then come back, come back out when you're ready and reconnect. It's about expanding, like how much pleasure can I hold in my body? How much presence can I hold in my body? How much can I actually feel in my body? Because they're the things that make a difference. I can imagine that relating to just thinking like back to gut, like I know in my own journey, starting to notice, oh, these symptoms are happening, rather than just ignoring my gut, starting to notice, oh, there's this symptom happening. I need to slow down and understand where it's coming from, what's happening, what's my body trying to tell me. Is it something that I'm doing? Is it something that I've eaten? Is it something that I've, haven't processed emotionally?
Yeah. Oh, it's so important to listen to your body. I think constipation is a big example of that, because people will often say, I've been constipated all my life. As far as I know, when I stopped to think about it, I don't think I went that regularly as a child, but there's been this lack of awareness or connection to body up until a point. So I think that, as you said, as things come up, you're the one living in your body. So you're the one that notices changes, or you're the one that notices, okay, something doesn't feel quite right when I've introduced that, or when I've eaten that, or when that happened for me emotionally. I think that it's really important to stop and really pay attention to those things.
Sooner than later.
Sooner than later, absolutely.
But everything
Don't
in our
doubt
society,
yourself. It's your body.
No, yeah, you're right. But everything in our society wants us to override the body.
Yes.
Right? No, you don't need to go to the toilet when you're a kid. Go and hug Uncle Esther, Uncle Fester or whatever, and you're like, ew, I don't want to touch him.
Yeah.
Let's honor the body, right?
Yeah.
But we have years of childhood overriding, to keep people happy and make sure that we stay safe and connected to people that are going to look after us. But we do things, and there's some of the unwindings that have to happen in order for people to have agency over their body and start to feel safe in them, and then actually enjoy living in them.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Is there anything that you would like to mention that we have not spoken about today before we get into some of the offerings that you have?
I think I just want to circle back to stress and how, like, when we're in this heightened state of stress, I think it throws out not just digestion, but desire and the reproductive system as well.
Yeah.
And so I can't highlight enough how important it is for people to, like, if you want to feel sexy, if you want to feel like you have arousal and desire, then start to manage the stress, or look at how you can do things differently to help you slow down so that the body can come into the place where it needs to be in order for digestion and reproduction, which is where, arousal and desire live, can come back online. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for ending on that note. So can you tell us about some of the events that you hold? You just did one called Date Night that you hosted on Valentine's Day.
I did. There was eye gazing.
There was eye gazing. Amazing.
Can't do a date night without eye gazing.
Yes. So tell us about that, but also what else do you have on offer when it comes to workshops in the future?
Yeah, so I have another date night coming up in May. Date night is, rather than me teaching couples how to have the practices that they then have to go home and create the space to do, I'm actually just creating the space where all they need to do is come, and I will guide them through the practices. So I guided the couples through emotional connection, energetic connection, so using some tantra, and then also physical connection, so using touch. There's no nudity, there's no sexual explicitness. There's, it's just about actually it's about slowing down, reconnecting. It was so beautiful to see everyone so gooey and loved up and blissed out, and it's just beautiful. That's when arousal can come back in. When we slow that down. So I think that's my mission this year, is just to create spaces that support couples to come back to each other, to slow down and reconnect and remember the person that they fell in love with, because it's always there. Yeah. It's just that we have to make the space to do that. Yeah, so I guide people through different practices. At date night on Valentine's Day, we went for taste sensory. So I gave them different delicious foods like strawberries and chocolate and things to feed each other.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, but we didn't dive straight into that. Yeah, and just affirming things like, the things that they love about each other, and the way in which they were touching one another, with love, with intention. Yeah.
And you've got one coming up in May, and you've had a couple of other workshops Again,
Yeah.
what you
So
do. Is it something you're going to be doing again?
yeah, so they've got there's a number of date nights this year. So if anyone wants to come to Newcastle and grab a
Is it
hotel
always
room,
couples?
yeah,
It is always couples.
it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, they can date, they can be on a date, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not. Yeah, it's just couples at the moment.
Yeah.
I feel the supporting individuals to find each other doesn't it doesn't call me at the moment. I did a lot of that with the tantra work like that I did, and
Yeah.
it just yeah, I always find I go deeper with one person.
I
Um,
actually thought that the date night was for the single person that wanted to reconnect to themselves, not like,
oh
yeah, that's where I
no.
thought this was. So, yeah, that's why I said, like, is it just for couples? Because my
Yeah.
assumption was it was for the single person that wanted to date themselves, reconnect to themselves before they kind of went out and found their
Mm,
person if they wanted that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think the majority of my work is helping couples find themselves back, like come back to
amazing.
each other. So by the time they're not in crisis anymore and they're able to actually start to come back to each other, the space is quite beautiful. And
Yeah.
then in September, I've got a couples retreat coming up. So there's no
Amazing.
details out, but it's coming. Yeah.
And just on the couples thing, sorry, questions that are churning through my head. You help people, one of the things you help people do, amongst other things, is help people reconnect in their couples. Is there a point where generally people come to seek your support, or is it, you know, they've left it for many, many years and they're too far gone and they've tried? And, what does that kind of look like? Or is it all very different? Do people come and
Oh,
see you when they're kind of struggling and it's just they're frightened that they're having disagreements more frequently, or they're just like ships in the night, or
yeah.
like roommates for years
Yeah. There's
sort of thing?
definitely roommates.
Yeah.
There's definitely stages that relationships go through.
Mm.
So when they're in the thick of it with young kids, they're just kind of like doing the thing that they need to do to actually grow the kids. But once the kids get to a certain point, like they've grown apart so much and they've changed as people that they need to, instead of keep arguing, they need to learn how to communicate and clean up some of the arguments that haven't, or I call them ruptures, some of the ruptures that have happened, in
Yeah.
order to like understand each other better and have more curiosity about who they're with now. And I think fun is a really important thing. Life gets really serious all the time, and we need to create more space for fun. So I like to, so couples come to me when usually they come in the guise of we're not having any sex. And then
Mm.
as I start to unpack that, I'm like, well, let's get the rest of the relationship. And it's like, well, when was the last time you went on a date? When was the last time you actually sat down and talked to each other about, your inner world? How well do you feel like you understand each other and feel seen and heard and adored? Why would I want to have sex with someone I don't feel seen and heard and adored? Just because I'm married or, in a long-term relationship doesn't mean I have to put out. You
Yeah.
still have to date me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just helping them kind of break down some of the, I guess, traditional roles that men and women have been given. Just the other day, a male was like, "Oh yeah, well, it's because I'm in a long-term relationship." I'm like, where does that belief even come from? And he's like, "Well, I don't know. It's just the way it's meant to be." And I'm like, "But where does that come from?"
Mm.
You know, no, we're all free, sovereign beings with agency over our bodies, and when we start to have that, then we can from there, from that place, there's so much to be explored.
Yeah.
So much sexual
Exciting for people, I'm sure.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Also, different types of libido. One person might be into the sensual thing, somebody else wants the kink thing. Somebody else is like, well, the kink thing scares me. So, how do we bridge those two?
Yeah.
How do we make kink a little bit more safe?
Vanilla-ish.
Yeah. But usually then they're like, oh, there's this whole other world out there that they want to go and explore. They just need the language to be able to do that, and then understanding of where to start before, it's about expanding that repertoire of that smorgasbord slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I appreciate your time, Rebecca, I think it's been just so great to get some insight into what you do and how you help people. Where can people find you, and
Oh,
what's next for you?
yeah, what's next? Well, so yeah, I definitely do individual and couples sessions. I'm available online and in person in Newcastle. I do, my events will be on my website, which is www.rebeccalevy.com.au. And yeah, people can always reach out. I am on socials. It's not my favorite place to hang. However, I am there. So yeah, I think the best thing to do would be sign up for my newsletter, and then
Amazing.
they'll find out what offerings. That's probably my most consistent form of sharing what I do.
Great. And I'll make sure I pop
Yeah. And
all
I
of
do
that in the
blogs.
show notes. You do
Thank
blogs.
you. Yeah,
Yes,
there's
I've read a few of
articles on my
yours.
website. Yeah.
The Getting to Know Rebecca ones and a few other ones. I was like, oh, I need to go back to that. That sounds awesome. So yeah, I do encourage people to go check out your website, read some of the blogs. You know, they'll be able to connect with you more about what you're all about and how you help people. And yeah, again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And I'm sure that people have gotten something out of this in how they're showing up for themselves and their relationship with pleasure and bodies and shame and guilt and all that sort of stuff. And if you're feeling any of those things and need support, Rebecca is your gal.
Thank you. And the beautiful thing is it's never permanent. No one's ever
No.
broken, and we can always make changes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, is just stories, isn't it? It's just, I just think of, I keep referring to myself, but I just kind of think of the younger teen me that had all those things wrapped up around sex. And so, you know, when you're doing it anyways because you don't want to be left behind, not for
Mm,
the love of it, and you want to rebel against people telling you what to do, it's still wrapped up in the story, the story of religion or whatever, what others have told you how it should be. So I think that yeah, it's exciting to know that those stories can be changed, and where, like you said, like where are you getting that from? Like, is it valid? Really, is it your
yeah.
story? So
Yeah. But
anyhow,
shame needs secrecy to survive.
yeah,
So if we start talking about it and we start looking at cultivating the relationship with pleasure, shame's kind of like, oh, there's no space here for me anymore.
yeah,
Mm, Such a shame.
yeah. I love it. And on that note, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please make sure that you share it with someone in your life that you know needs to hear it. And while you're at it, please subscribe to Love and Guts, whether it's on YouTube or on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen, so that everyone else can find the valuable content that Rebecca Levy has presented to us today.